I am DM Zone, this is Gamer's Oasis. Let's get into it. Okay, so in this video I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about artifacts, relics of tremendous power, and those type of things that are found within the original Dungeons & Dragons. The 1974 rules that came out, the original 3 core rule books, were very brief on what they had to say about this. Matter of fact, they didn't refer to them as relics, they were just referred to them as artifacts. This was found in Book 2, and I'm going to just put that whole section up there so you can see it. It says, we find artifacts are various and powerful items of law and chaos. It then continues to give a lot of non-detailed items suggesting that teleportation machines, a fighter's crown, as well as orbs and scepters, which kind of feel like they might be straight out of a fantasy novel. Stone crystallization projectors and those type of things for maybe an alien world, maybe a red planet. All of these items tend to have a very familiar feel about them, and I think that's important to know about it. It suggests that if you are the wrong alignment and you touch one of these items, that you could suffer 10d6 worth of damage, that it might make you insane for a month, sort of a Lovecraftian novel type of theme, if that makes sense. Or you might suffer severe effects of level drain, paralysis, those type of things. Sort of like a Sleeping Beauty thing almost. And then lastly, but not least, you have instant death. Now, I thought it was a little bit odd, but they actually gave you that list in reverse order, starting with death, going to paralysis and level drain, and then ending on damage. Now, to be fair, 10d6 worth of damage is basically instant death for most people. However, when you get to Supplement 3, Eldritch Wizardry, we have a lot more to look at. There's a huge, way more information to pick up from this and to gain from this. You can also see when you're reading the text of the artifacts going by, sort of where they're inspired from. Now, slightly out of order, I'm going to go into the abilities first so you can see what these abilities are, and then you can translate that back to the artifact as it's going in case you're wanting to know what these artifacts actually do. Having these powers listed all together, since there are so many different powers, stops a lot of repeated text throughout the book and saves a lot of pages, a lot of wasted space. It also kind of makes a secret code that your players may not know what it's actually doing or what it happens or what the negative effects are unless they go look at the book. And if you don't allow them to look at the book, then they don't know actually if there's a negative that keeps occurring every time. Now, near the end of the video, I will actually go fully detail a well-known yet strange artifact that I feel is worth talking about. So let's get into some of what the artifacts are supposed to be doing, what the little stuff is that I haven't already gotten to yet. It says, well, owners of the items are said to show a change in personality and become greedy, possessive, and often secretive. First just with the item, but that often changes and spreads to other items. This can happen slowly or more rapidly with others. These items tend to be truly resistant to destruction or damage, and for better or worse, whether the act is successful or not, anyone trying to destroy the object normally dies during the attempt or the actual process of the destruction. It also suggests that with some items at least, the referee is suggested or should make changes so that it fits the world, the campaign. Some items are very fixed and static, and they're not designed to fit the world in the campaign. They're designed almost to be like a disruptive force in that campaign. It's also considered both unlawful and evil, which technically is not in alignment yet, to give an item with this much power to a non-player character, an NPC. If any of these items are given to an NPC, it will corrupt them over time and turn them against their friends, their allies, their employer potentially, and whoever is their sovereign. Hang on with me for a few seconds, and I will get there in the end. So I've been doing some videos on Stranger Things, the TV show. It has the show finale coming up here on the 31st, and we are down to literally the last episode. All the production, all these things are all for this big fight. And who you're fighting? Vecna. Now, Vecna is not detailed in original Dungeons & Dragons. He did get detailed in a module that came out in AD&D called Vecna Lives, but he does have 2 artifacts on this list. He is described as a lich who was destroyed by Kaz, and only the eye and the hand of Vecna remain. So in the spirit of the TV show that I've been covering and in talking about artifacts, let's go ahead and rebuild Vecna's eye and talk about what it actually is. So the vampire who destroyed Vecna is known as Kaz. Kaz actually has a sword, just so you're aware. And like I said earlier, only his hand and his eye remain. Now, with the eye, it says that when it is pressed into an empty socket of a human head, it grafts itself to the head and gives them remarkable powers. You can literally read the text as I'm saying this. This is literally the process in which you equip this item, is to press it into an empty eye socket. Now, it doesn't actually state you have to cut the eye out yourself, or if you have some sort of prior injury, or maybe you're only born with one eye. But the likelihood is you're probably going to have to cut out your own eye socket to be able to put this in. And you may not be able to do it, so someone else might have to do that to you, because the human body kind of protects itself from self-inflicted wounds of this nature. Once the eye is pressed into the eye socket, though, it grafts itself, which sounds like it'd be very uncomfortable, and it forces you to become chaotic. And because of that, it gives you several powers for free. If we look at table 1, you see there are 3 powers. These 3 powers are immunity to disease, clairaudience, and water breathing. Now, these are pretty good abilities and might be somewhat worth having this. They're also not very dark. They're not very sinister in any way. But when you go to the second level, it starts getting a little bit sinister, though you could probably talk this one away. It says that you get paralyzation 3 times a day with a -3 to save throw. Now, I assume that's going to be on the dice, making it your dice roll 3 lower than what it normally is. So if you need a 6, now you need to roll a 9 to be able to do it. I'm also going to assume this is a touch attack, but one could argue that maybe it's a gaze attack because it's an eye and everything. Because the powers are centralized, they're not specific to the eye. Any artifact that has paralyzation does it in this manner, if it has this version of the paralyzation. So there will be some adjustment and some accounting for what the item does or looks like or how it works. Now, the last ability is more complicated, and it has a cost associated with it. It's on table 5. This gives you a once a week wish. Now, the associated cost that is with it happens immediately too. I would say this part happens secretively. It doesn't specifically say this in the rules, but I believe, based upon everything else I know, that this would be a secretive roll done by the referee. And if you fail or the eye is successful, you wouldn't necessarily know it until it's too late. But here's what happens. The power contained within the eye finally breaks free, taking over and destroying your soul, and then masquerading as you, doing things that you would not normally do. For example, it will kill your hirelings and associates, plus other bad things. And if you had family, I'm assuming that would be on the table too, if that was the type of game you ran. Now, the chance of this happening are very small. It's a D4% every time you do it. So the first time it's a D4, that number stays, and then the second time you roll a D4 and you add that together and then you check. And this continues until finally you fail. So you have wish, but you really don't want to use it very often. And every time you do it, there's a chance that you could become a homicidal maniac that is intent on destroying the lives of those they care for. So there we have it. Classic artifact. that most viewers of Stranger Things could relate to, as well as D&D players, as they could relate to it because they probably have heard about it over the years. I would say also that when the artifact has removed everything of value from your life and you've become a husk of yourself and there's no reason for you to continue and you're basically gone, instead of having you walk around like Sam in Supernatural with no soul, it probably would just wither you up, drop you down in a way that it would present the eye to be found by another so that this could continue. And I guess one more scratch on the wall for Vecna, right? I think this also kind of relates to what's happening in the TV show Stranger Things in many ways, and it's kind of eerie. Maybe they did this on purpose. I don't know. This section talking about artifacts is one of the best parts in all the books I've read so far that takes a complicated subject, in this case artifacts, and puts it in a concise way that would be easily understood by even the newest player. It's a simple table check, essentially, and they're titled well and outlined well. In a future video, probably next year, I'm assuming, I'm going to be talking about intelligent items, in this case weapons really, not necessarily items, which are fairly close to artifacts, but they are very different. And they were in the 1974 rules, which was the primary focus of the rules of the major powerful items back then. Anyways, guys, did I get this one right? Did I get this one wrong? Is there any stories you might have about artifacts in your world and how they changed or dictated your campaign? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Thank you. Have a great day and keep rolling those dice. Bye.